For today's lesson, we're going to be learning about gesture drawing. We'll be using the YouTube channel New Masters Academy for our human reference, so fair warning, there will be nude artist models in this video. First, let's define gesture. Gesture drawings are quick, energetic drawings that capture the essential information about a subject in its most distilled form. Gesture incorporates action, emotion, movement, and expression. Getting a sense of movement or motion in the figure is very important. In order to capture this movement, we need to hint at some of the anatomical structures so that the movement has a mechanism. So before we get into gesture drawing, we'll be learning about points of reference on the skeleton. What are points of reference on the skeleton? Points of reference are places throughout the body where bone is closest to skin. If you sting these reference points on your paper, you'll capture the anatomy and have a tool for capturing movement. Now, the way I'm about to draw the reference points is not necessarily how I want you to gesture. I'm just going to give you a working armature of the body, kind of like a roadmap of the points that you should be aware of. Before I show you the reference points, we kind of need somewhere to place the reference points. So the main forms that we're going to be dealing with are the rib cage and the pelvis. Okay, so from the front, this egg-like shape will represent the rib cage, and this circular vessel, kind of like a bowl, will represent the pelvis. So when it comes to the rib cage, we have a few reference points attached to it. We have the sternum coming down the middle, right? This is a place where bone is closest to skin. On the top of the sternum, we have the clavicles. Roughly bicycle handlebar shape, right? So we have the whole length of the sternum, but every time something begins and ends, we're going to sting our paper with these little points. Those are our points of reference where bone is closest to skin. So also on the rib cage, we have our ribs, but we're not going to illustrate ribs. This isn't contour. It's just gesture, so we need to just know where they begin and end. Maybe it's a triangle, maybe it's more of a Gothic arch, maybe it's more of a barrel shape, it depends on the person, but where the ribs end and where they go up to meet the sternum, creating that little triangle. Now, the reverse of this triangle would be on the pelvis, showing where the hips or the top of the iliac crest, that's the top form of the pelvis, is at the front of the body. That is a place where bone is closest to skin, and also the bottom of the pelvis, also called the ischium. So this triangle and this triangle kind of creating a split diamond is something to look for. Also, we have legs and arms, right? So make sure when you gesture, you're not having the legs come from the bottom of the pelvis. They kind of come from the side a little bit and go inward. Our knees are closer together than our hips. So when you gesture, the two bones that make up the lower half of your leg, you might want to kind of bend with a single line, because those two bones help in rotation, right? So you might get a slight curve in the shin. So same with the arms for gesture, elbow to shoulder straight, and then the lower half would be a little bit curved. So your elbow is roughly where your rib ends, and then curve. So these are all places of reference in addition to the bonier places. You could also have a line of symmetry going down the front of the body, kind of serving as a spine of the front of the body. It's called the linea alba. So just a straight up line cutting the torso in half, and then the navel probably at the same height as the hips. So these are some reference points where bone is closest to skin, where you sting your page when you gesture or when you're drawing the figure in general. For the reference points for the back of the body, we're going to start the same way with the rib cage and the pelvis. That soft egg shape. This time, instead of a bowl for a pelvis, it'll kind of be like a butterfly to show the iliac crest, the top of the pelvis, but the bottom of the pelvis will stay the same. So kind of a butterfly, or a vessel. Okay, so not the linea alba in the front, but we have the spine. On the spine, we have the 7th cervical vertebrae. You can feel it. It's where your spine of your back kind of turns into your neck. Now, we don't have clavicles in the back, we have scapula. So the spine of the scapula is shaped kind of like a bull's horn. Right, like the top of the head of a cow, you can kind of see it with the scapula attached. So these are all places I would sting where bone is closest to skin. You might see some short ribs. You might see these dimples in the back. A triangular bone called the sacrum. Now, legs, same as the front, coming from the sides, not from directly underneath, with knees closer together. Bent lower legs. Same with the arms, straight from shoulder to elbow, elbow ending roughly where the ribs end, and then bent lower arms. These are all places I would sting where bone is closest to skin on the back view.